Hello, everybody. Even though nobody's here yet, but that's okay. Welcome. I'm so excited to welcome today divorce coach Julie Beckerman, who is also a sweet friend of mine. Now, Julie and I met, was it about 6 years ago? Maybe 7 or 8?
Maybe even more, yeah.
Wow. Well, it's been several years ago that Julie and I met. We were actually playing volleyball, and we met, and we did not realize at the time that we met that both of us were going through a tumultuous time in our marriage. Basically, our marriages were coming to an end. But what we did know is that we had a good connection, we had a good vibe, we had a good energy, and she always felt like somebody I wanted to stay in touch with. I wasn't sure why. And then about a year ago, we connected again on Facebook to come to find out that both of our marriages had ended, and pretty much the pain, adversity, and tumultuousness in our marriage basically awakened us into our callings, which both, leads to helping people, to helping others. So basically, your pain, your adversity led you to becoming a divorce coach. You were already in a path of helping people with, in terms of therapy and counseling. And then because of adversity in your marriage, you realized that divorces are tough. People go through a lot of things, and you wanted to be a support system for other people.
Correct.
Who were going through.
Yeah, I had always done some type of counseling. I worked in business, in HR. I had done career counseling and career coaching, and then divorce sort of led me to decide to marry the two things together. So yeah, and I agree. Yeah, the adversity sometimes leads you down the path, and just like you. So we kind of made those decisions in the same way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And now that leads us here, which is a blessing. You're going to actually share with us some tips on successful co-parenting during the holidays.
Yeah.
And I know holidays is definitely a challenging time for a lot of people in general. I want to give a shout out to anybody who is going through a hard time. I know a lot of people experience loss of loved ones. The holidays can be very hard for people. So for anybody who's going through a hard time these holidays, my heart goes out to you. Yeah, we wish you love during this season.
Yeah.
So what kind of tips can you give us on making this co-parenting thing work?
Yeah, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is why the holidays are really difficult. And we know that our experience in life is what we pay attention to. And the holidays is all about paying attention to family and love and bringing things together, and it's everywhere. Right. So whatever we're experiencing around those things gets heightened. So if we're sad, and we see, right, so during the holidays, it's everywhere, right? We see all these things about family and love. So whatever we're feeling about those things, we're going to feel more of it. Right. So what can we do about that, right? It's, short of going into your room and putting, the blanket over your head, it's really hard to avoid it. And so the first tip about that is to acknowledge and validate what you're experiencing.
That's good.
If you're feeling sad, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're angry, right? Co-parenting, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, right? And the first thing you want to just acknowledge is that's normal. That's okay. And there's something called primary and secondary emotions. And I don't think you and I had actually discussed this, so I'm just going to throw this in there. But when we feel sad, and then we start to feel frustrated at ourselves for feeling sad, what happens is we have sad, and then we say, don't feel sad. Why are you feeling sad? So then what we have is the frustration about that sadness. So what starts off as feeling sad now becomes sad and frustrated. And if you're anything like me, that can go very complicated and get very deep and dark. So then you're sad, and then you're frustrated, and then you're angry, about being frustrated, about being sad. So what started off as just feeling sad becomes sad, frustrated, and angry, and it becomes really big.
And then it can even spiral into depression.
And then it can spiral into depression and become something much larger, so the tip is you are entitled to feel whatever you feel and allow it. It's normal. It makes sense. And that tip goes for yourself, and that tip goes for your kids as well. So what I see a lot with parenting is our kids have these feelings and they act out these feelings, and parents will often say to their kids, like, stop, don't be angry, don't be sad or weak, right? And what ends up happening is our kids and ourselves, those feelings then exacerbate and get much larger. And
we're not dealing with them. Addressing them.
Right, we're not allowing the feelings to happen.
Right.
So the second tip, or the second difference, is there's a very big difference between what you feel and how you behave. So that's good. And that's a good tip for ourselves as well. So whether you have your kids with you during the holidays or your kids are not with you, whatever you feel does not have to control how you act. So
that's good.
That's good. Right there, right? We're gonna jump on that. So I have this saying, or this thing that I tell my daughter all the time, and that's, you can be as angry as you want, but you don't get to shoot somebody in the face, right? And that's a little bit of a joke, but it's not, right? So you get to have your feelings, but you don't have to act on them. So if you're by yourself for the holidays and you're sad about that, or you're frustrated or angry with your ex because you don't think it's fair, you can have those feelings, but you can decide how you want to deal with it. So you can make a plan for what you're going to do during the holiday. You're sad, but how do you want to handle that sadness? Do you want to spend the day at home in bed crying all day? You can, if that's how you want to handle it. That's a choice, but at least know that you're choosing that. You're not going to allow the sadness to choose it for you.
Very good.
You can decide to take an hour to be sad and then make a decision to volunteer somewhere. Or you can, go to, your local church or any holiday party. I like to say, just say yes. You get invited somewhere, bingo and punch, whatever, go.
Just say yes.
Just say yes. Try it, right? Because the worst case is you go and you're miserable. You were miserable anyway. You come home. Best case, you have some funny stories to tell. If you have your kids and your kids are frustrated or angry or sad because it's not what it was, it's not the way they expected, it's not what they want, are they entitled to be unhappy about it? Yeah, they are. Does that mean that they get to punch their little sister in the face? No. Can they be unhappy because they don't get the iPhone that they wanted because you can't afford it this year the way that maybe you used to be able to? Sure, they can be unhappy about it. That doesn't mean that they get to act the way that, right, they don't get to act on those feelings. Now, that may take a little more time, but the best gift you can give your kids this year is by setting that example for them. Mm-hmm. You don't get to act that way either. And you are teaching them by setting that example.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, all those things sound like good opportunities for teachable moments.
Absolutely.
Good opportunities for discussions. In life, things won't always pan out the way you want. You may not always
Almost
continue
never.
in
They
a
almost never do.
Basically.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
No, it's fine. I'm seeing, thank you. I'm trying to read some of the comments.
Thank you, Arlene. Hi.
Yes. It's, life does knock us down sometimes. It doesn't present us what we want. It's not always fair. We don't always get to, get things in the package that we wanted. And that's good discussion. It's good topics for conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Talk about it and then talk about how do we move on from here. Like you said, we don't have ABC, but how do we go from here? How do we which I think you said you were going to discuss also. I'm not sure, I don't remember, but how do we make different memories, or how do we create something new that we would enjoy?
Absolutely. And that's about also recognizing that the way it was is not going to be the way it is, and that it's just not possible. So you are entitled to create new traditions. You do not have to try to recreate the holiday traditions that you once had. It's not a competition with your ex. So if your ex is doing something with the kids that looks and feels like, maybe it looks like they're going to have more fun with your ex, and you feel bad about that, you can do your own thing. If it's feeling stressful, or it feels out of your price range, or the gifts that your ex is maybe giving your kids is more than you can afford, it is not a competition. You do you. And that will, I like that. I like that. Every time, so you do you, and you're going to be able to provide something your ex is not. New traditions are going to start now.
Right.
And it shouldn't be stressful. And if it's causing stress, it's not going to be a happy holiday.
Right.
And so
right.
if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And I will just say, my kid's father and I, well, right now they're going to be in the South with my parents, but one thing we've started to do during the holidays is they'll spend half the day with one person and then half the day with the other, so that way everybody feels like they've kind of been involved in the holiday. And then also I'm learning to release expectations that, I may not be with them every holiday, and it is just a day out of the year. Sometimes we put way too much emphasis on certain things, and then we let ourselves down because we put the expectations so high, and we put so much emphasis on, I have to be with my children for Christmas Day, or I'm not a good mother, or I failed as a mother, or I'm not going to enjoy the experience, which is understandable to feel that way. But, you can say to yourself, well, we'll celebrate Christmas on Friday when you get back. That'll be our Christmas day.
I love that.
You know what I mean? We'll celebrate Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving or the day before. Sometimes we put way too much emphasis on the actual physical day, and then that just sets us up to be angry or frustrated or disappointed.
Absolutely.
We don't really have to, like you said, it could be a new tradition. It doesn't have to fall within the the status quo.
Yeah, I love that. I love there's a Buddhist saying, expectations are the key to suffering. And, when you get creative, right?
Yes.
You can create, so many more opportunities for joy and happiness.
Right.
And when you release those expectations. So like, I think what I was referring to before, if there's stress, there's a lot less joy involved. So any plan or any way of arranging it with your ex is fine, right? There's no right or wrong way to do it, as long as it's working for everybody. So if you find yourself, and this was something else, like when it's conflicted or there's a lot of conflict with your ex, right, you get creative, right? So putting on, right, what Kelly's referring to, putting that emphasis, like it has to be this way, and you find yourself in this tug of war with your ex, the more creative you can get, not putting so much emphasis that it has to be a certain way, is gonna give you a lot of much more room and a lot more opportunities to just make the holidays less stressful for you, for your kids, and for everybody. So that's an excellent point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just piggybacking on the great points that you're saying, but what I'm hearing you say also is like putting the emphasis on the joy and the happiness, and not on anything else, not on a specific day, not on how it's supposed to work, not on who's going to have them win, because there are a lot of people that have volatile. I know, unfortunately, there's a lot of men that have trouble even getting in contact with the mother of their child to negotiate, when they're going to have them during the holidays, or vice versa. And that can be very, very daunting, very disturbing. But like somebody told me the other day, don't focus on what it's not, focus on what it is. You know what I mean? This is what it is. I can't control anything else, and just focus on creating the joy and the happiness within the parameters of whatever it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. It's a great point.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Just piggybacking on you, you know, you have some great points.
We always connected.
Always
connected.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, that's really important is we sometimes, especially when there's conflict, right? When there's conflict with your ex, we can get very caught up in our self-respect, not getting pushed over, standing up for ourselves. How dare they? They don't get to do that. That's not, and we lose track of what the point is. And we also, I'm so taking that all the time. And we have to keep our eye on the ball. The holidays are about family. And when you've gone through a separation or a divorce, this is your new family and that's your kids. And if we get caught spending our energy and spending our time in the fight with our exes over who gets that time with your new family, your kids, it stops being about your kids. And ultimately, if this is about joy and family and a happy holiday, and the kids are getting pulled into it in any way, we lose the point. And that is a very hard thing, because we do our respect and our ego and our rights, right? What we're entitled to, they do matter. And that's not to say that they don't.
Right.
But we have to sometimes just remember to, we just have to remember that, we just really have to remember what's important. And when it comes to the holidays, it really is not about the fight. It's not. Yeah. However, I just want to put it out there. There are circumstances where there's conflicts with exes, where an ex's sole purpose is to cause conflict.
Ooh, Lord Jesus.
I will put that out there. And when that happens, it's almost like if you say up, they say down. So then you say down, and then they say up, right? And that does happen. Not all the time, but that does happen. Indeed. If that happens, please contact me, because I do work with people where that's the case, and those are very challenging situations, and they can be very damaging to you and your kids. So please reach out to me. And I don't know how that's going to get put out there, but Kelly knows how to contact me, because those are very extreme cases.
We'll make sure to leave your information in the comments after this. We'll put the information in there. And if there's anything on that topic that you ever, I would love to definitely have you back again to give more tips. Unfortunately, co-parenting is now like the new norm. Most of, I think there's like a 75% divorce rate now. So many of us are unfortunately having to go through the co-parenting thing during the holidays and or in general. So it's a tough topic. It's very challenging. It's something that's really sensitive to all our hearts, because it involves our babies, and then there were feelings from a relationship previously that, are often still there. There's usually one parent that still has feelings for the other. And sometimes, like you said, out of resentment or out of hurt or out of anger, they do their best to try to make the other's life miserable, Right. And that's...
Yes, it's very difficult to co-parent or work with someone who does not want to work with you. That's going to be very difficult.
Very challenging.
I wanted to give, hi Daryl, thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to also point out some other tips for when you're alone during the holidays, or, it's a very hard time, or whether you're divorced or just by yourself, or you're mentioning people who have some loss around that. There's a lot, right? We're on social media right now, and social media is a highlight reel. And one of the things to just note is what people put out there, right? We know, people who have been through divorce know better than anyone that what we see is not always the truth, right? What happens behind closed doors is not necessarily what we're seeing in the social media highlight reel. So, right? It's like, I always like to say, like, don't believe the hype about the matching pajamas, right? It's like, just because we have these like amazing Christmas cards and everyone is smiling in front of the fireplace, right? Everyone shares all these amazing things and their plans and everyone's smiling, but it doesn't always mean that what you're seeing, that everyone's having an amazing time except you. And sometimes that comparison can make things even harder. It's like the world is celebrating around your loss. But that's not true all the time. And we know that. Yes, some people are having these amazing moments, but not everyone. You're not alone. Right. And sometimes when we feel that comparison, that can make it harder. And so to recognize sometimes that there are other people that are going through it as well. And other people some people hate the holidays, right? And sometimes it's like, and just to normalize your experience and, and it's okay. Sometimes things suck and that's okay. That's part of the normal experience and people feel that all the time. So it's not just you.
That's really good. I'm really glad you said that. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. I'm glad you said that. It's true. You're not alone. And, like you said it in a certain way, it's all about our perspective and just creating joy and happiness for ourselves, even if it doesn't happen on Christmas Day, if it happens another time. Mm-hmm. And I think it's also important to remember that, you don't want to feel like you have to do it all by yourself. Mm-hmm. You can get support, like you said, they can contact you, you offer counseling, or, call your friends. And I'll say, for African Americans, for Black people, sometimes, we feel the need to have to be so strong, and we don't always allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And as a very strong Black woman, I can say that it's okay and helpful to call a friend and say, you know what? I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling down. Can you come over? Can I come over? Mm-hmm. Invite yourself. Sometimes we sit around. I've been totally guilty of it myself. I'll sit around and I feel miserable. And I think to myself, nobody called me. I don't have any plans. I don't have anything to do. But I can also reach out and call people and say, hey, I don't have plans this holiday. My kids won't be here. What are you doing? Can I come to your house? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Can we go such and such place together? Or let me find a good book and a good corner that I can go read in. But create for yourself some happiness, some joy, even if it definitely means calling friends, asking for support. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Not only is there nothing wrong with that, it's actually very healthy. It's very healthy.
That's a really good point, and I want to piggyback on what you said. I think too, especially around the holidays, but I think we also feel like we're imposing our sadness or our negativity on other people's lives.
That's good.
And I think what we forget is that being around happiness actually brings us up more so than it brings people down. And so that sometimes, we assume that it's like imposing on people,
right?
But people like to help people.
That's
right.
Good.
And when we remember, it's actually a gift to be able to help someone else. So, stop being so selfish. Like, let people help you. It's
that
like that kind
really
of thing.
Good. That's so good. And I'll piggyback on that too. Like even in the scripture, it says you have not because you ask not. And a good friend of mine told me one time, like, how we have chemicals in our body, like endorphins and different hormones, that when women are around other women, we actually, and I can't say about men, but I'm imagining it's similar, we have chemicals and hormones that we release that actually increase the serotonin and the endorphins and the feel-good, feel-good chemicals in our body. So by being around people that love you, care about you, support you, will actually help boost your mood.
Yeah.
So it's important. It's very mandatory to not
isolate.
Right.
It's important not to isolate.
Right. So. Unless, of course, you want isolation, but you're choosing it in a healthy response.
Yes.
And not in
consciously.
Right. So. Is there anything else you want to share with us? Any other tips?
The one other thing I just wanted to say is the shoulds. Is just another thing just to be aware of. And you mentioned it before about expectations. Shoulds are a big thing around the holidays, even in the happy holidays. Merry Christmas. It's almost as though we have to be happy, right? Have a happy holiday, have a Merry Christmas. And We do that to ourselves, like what we should be, how we should feel. And there's this little, a term like stop shitting all over yourself, right? So, there is no should, there is no way that it has to be, there's no way you have to feel, there's nothing you have to do. It's just the way it is, which is what you kind of said earlier. And when we just kind of allow things to be, and it actually, the transitions through to the next phases happen a lot more naturally. So if you kind of can take that, like the stop shitting all over yourself, and just allow yourself to go through it, it's something that's helped me a lot.
Very profound. I like that. I like that. Which
That's
basically goes back to kind of what we were saying earlier about expectations.
Same idea.
That's expectations you're putting on yourself.
Yes, about how we expect to feel or think we're supposed to feel.
Heavy, very profound. Wow, Julie, you're awesome. And I'm just
same.
Aw, thank you. It's always been a pleasure from the day I met you. You were a light. You had a light inside of you, and it was very obvious to me, and I felt it. And so now here, like 7-8 years later, after, knowing that you've gone through some hard times, I've gone through some hard times, and to see that we chose not to allow it to tear us down, but to, actually take us more to the light. So I'm proud of you, you know what I mean? And I'm happy for you, and I'm so thankful that you came here to share with us.
Aw, happy holidays. If it's happy,
Yes.
Unless it's not.
Yes. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you for watching. Share this video if you think it'll be helpful to somebody. And we look forward to seeing you again in the future. And just go be merry, go enjoy and peace regardless of whatever your circumstances are. Choose joy and choose happiness. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.